Hello, my family. This is Sunday afternoon, and I'm going to tell you it's a canning kind of day, not your ordinary canning. I kind of got myself into a thing, and I'm kind of doing a thing. And as I was going ahead doing my thing, I decided to go ahead and share it with y'all because I think this would help many others, and probably the rest of you could enjoy this as well. So, I'm bringing out an old canning friend. Currently, at the moment, though, I am pressure canning some kidney beans. I have 5 pints out of a pound of kidney beans. I've got 5 pints, and that's going to go on the shelf to go towards our chili. But I'm also bringing out an old canner I have not used this whole year. Surprisingly, I mean, I have used more of my pressure canner than I have used this bad boy, and this would be my water bath canner. I'm actually kind of excited to bring this out, but what on earth would I be water bath canning at this time of year? Besides maybe some jams or jellies, which I don't do because, well, I don't really do much jams or jellies anyways, and they would have to be low sugar. There isn't really much left. This is going into fall. But I found something, and this is where I got myself into a thing. Y'all, look. They're not cheap, mind you. I paid $2.39 a pound for green tomatoes. But I'm going to keep doing what I can do, because what I am going to do today and what I'm going to share with you today is my bounty basket full of green tomatoes. We're going to make sliced, pickled, or dilled tomatoes. We're going to put them up on our pantry so that this winter, me and the hubs can have some fried green tomatoes in the wintertime. Can you only imagine? Now I'm going to get into a brief description of why I chose to do the dill. There are 2 ways of doing this, and I will tell you what I learned based by seeking out and the advice given, and I decided that I trust the person who I have gotten this information from. So we're going to put these up aside for just a moment because I cannot wait. I've done the beans, but I am absolutely doing these today as well, for sure. But I'm going to be doing them with you. So here is what I have. Let me get my book. Okay, in the Blue Book Guide to Preserving, in this book, they have a recipe for grilled or dilled green tomatoes. However, they're basically cut, and I'm going to slice them. Now, where I got this information from was there is an absolute beautiful canning lady I have followed. I continue to follow. I have been subscribed to her for about a year or 2 now. And that is Carol. She's from the Thrifty Chick Housewife. She is an amazing, flavorful canner, and I trust everything she says. Now, there were 2 methods of doing this. One is pressure canning green tomatoes, sliced for your fried green tomatoes, for 10 minutes. And then the other one is water bath canning them, or steam canning them for 15 minutes. And you'd have to make those into dill. So she did the experiment on both. Now, of course, you can do either one, but what she found was the ones that were pressure canned were a little bit too soft for her taste. And frankly, I trust her because it seems that I have tried a lot of her recipes. I have done a lot of her canning methods, including the herb potatoes, and I highly trust her. The way she does her dried beans, I follow that to a T because it is absolutely perfect. They do have their firmness, but they're tender. They have their structure, and they're not mush. I follow Carol because she is an absolute amazing canner, and she is a fantastic teacher. On the herb potatoes, she was the one that taught me to use the red potatoes where you can cut them and literally fry them. And I had put that to the test because I did that with you all. So in the same aspect, I'm going to trust her ways of speaking on these green tomatoes. She has found that the pressure canned were way too soft. And although they crisped, they were okay. It wasn't the firm that she was looking for. Versus the dill. Now, yes, they are dilled pickled. Or, well, they're pickled or dilled tomatoes. However, she did say that it just kind of enhances that flavor because of the way that it has that dilly taste, and it gives a beautiful fried green tomato. And the texture, she was able to stick it with her fork. It held their shape. It did amazing. And when she fried them up, they were absolutely crispy. So I tend to agree with her, and I am going to do that method. Hold on just a minute and let me get this canner started. Alright, y'all, I apologize. This canner is just now getting started on its processing, and I got to do these beans for 75 minutes. So right after that, we are going to go ahead and I'm going to do this video with you on water bath canning. But back to the tomatoes. Now, granted, this is now September, and naturally I do not have any dill heads, but the recipe book stated that I can use dill seed, and that's exactly what I am going to do today. I will be using wide mouth jars on pint size because the recipe in the book works with just pints anyway, so that's all we're going to do. And we're using the wide mouth so that we can get those rings out of here. I am going to be using garlic. They have cayenne. I am omitting the cayenne in this. The only thing I'm going to use is 5% white vinegar acidic. I am going to be using dill seed and garlic in my water. That is all, y'all. And then I am going to water bath can these for 15 minutes. So I thought I'd go ahead, because I don't know how many of you are in the southern region like us who absolutely love our fried green tomatoes. I made some yesterday and I still had some left over. So I'm going to be frying these up tonight, and I could do it both low carb and regular, and that's what I'm going to do. So I got these two left. I can't actually can them because they started ripening some. So we're just going to fry these, but the rest of them are absolute perfect green, and they are perfect for canning. I've never done this before. This is my first time. I've heard so many good reviews about the way the method I'm fixing to do it. If this works, y'all, this is a game changer and going on my shelf. So I may go ahead and do, providing that they can still keep them in the store. I think it was about 7 pounds of what I have, and they were a little over $17. So I may do this one more time because I want to test it out afterwards, but we'll see. I mean, I just may go ahead and do this every year, but I know I am looking forward to being able to take a jar of that off of my shelf in the winter and just frying up some green tomatoes when we feel like we're having it. We're having beans for dinner tonight anyways, so beans and fried green tomatoes, what kind of southern dish, how else can you have that in almost fall? So we will be back, and when we come back, I will take you through the process on how to can fried green or green tomatoes. Okay, my family, so we're going to get started now. Our canner over here has just turned its timer off, so we're waiting to the pressure to come down for our beans. And we're going to be, once we get this taken care of, we're going to be replacing this with the water bath canner, because I'm going from one canning to straight to the next. So I'm going to go ahead and get these green tomatoes prepared. Now, in choosing your green tomatoes, you want them as green as possible and very firm. If you see them like this where they're almost ripe, don't choose these. Now, this is great to use it for fresh, and I replaced these two that I accidentally bought, and I had some that were darker, so I'm actually going to make these fresh. And so you want to get them as green as possible. Now, what I'm going to be doing is cutting out the center core, and then I'm going to be cutting off the very ends of this, and the shiny side bubble is what it was suggested to cut this end off too, to make straight cuts. So I'm going ahead and show you. I'm going to go ahead cut my center out. You want to use a sharp knife, y'all. It makes it so much easier. I don't like using any dull knives in my kitchen. To me, I kind of think they're a bit dangerous. So, cut out my core. And then I'm going to cut just the end off of this, and then just barely the edge of that tomato. Now I want to make my cuts about a quarter of an inch thick slice, no more than a half, y'all. So a good 1/4 inch is really a nice size frying tomato. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this all the way through it, just to make a nice slicing tomato. And that's it. Now I'm going to take them and stack them inside my bowl and go ahead and continue on with the next 15 tomatoes we have. So we will be right back as soon as we have all this done. Okay, so mistake number one for me, knowing that this is my first time, we did get a big bowl of these tomatoes. Now, one thing I did learn really quick, you want to choose kind of medium, relatively small size, because otherwise they're not going to fit in your jar very well. So I will be frying these up instead tonight, because they are just not going to fit inside my jar unless I half them. So, and you can probably do that. I'm just going to fry these up, and I may, actually this one's still relatively green, so I may replace this one with this one. So I'm going to go ahead and get these set aside, and we're going to cover this up while we get our brine ready, because we're going to use that to fill our jars with. So we will be right back. This is right here about 15 green tomatoes, and we're going to see how many pints that we're going to get out of this. Okay, y'all, so we are going to add our brine. Now, at times past, there wasn't really nothing we had to worry about, but this time we do. I have noticed, especially this year, we need vinegar. But please make sure your vinegar, especially when it comes to canning, you want 5% acidity. Please make sure that somewhere on your, whether it's regular vinegar, apple cider vinegar, anytime you are going to can with it, you want to look for that 5% acidity. So, because nowadays at the store, we are noticing that they are having a 4% acidity. So that is not even workable for canning. So I need 3.5 cups of vinegar, because like I said, we are going to pickle these. So I'm not exactly sure. This recipe is for 6 pints, but we'll see how many we get. It's been known that approximately 2 tomatoes per jar should fit, so we'll see. I'm going to go ahead and now add, after my vinegar, I'm going to add 3.5 cups of water. Okay, so now it states that I need a 1/4 cup of canning salt. Now, I choose canning salt, and I will always use canning salt because it does not have the iodine in it. So I will never tell anybody how to can. I always prefer to use that. So I am going to use a 1/4 cup of this, and this is going to be our brine. Now we're going to bring this to a boil, mainly just to dissolve the salt for our brine, and I will be setting this aside. This is what's going to go ahead and fill our jars. So I'm going to get this set aside, get this stirred up, and then I'm going to come back with the rest of the ingredients while I'm waiting for this, because the canner is about to be ready to be pulling the beans out and then putting the water bath canner in its place. Okay, so here are going to be our next ingredients, and mind you, I am going to follow Carol's advice due to flavoring and stuff, because we are dealing with a fried green tomato. For us, basically, we do not use pickled versions. It's straight from our garden, sliced into our breading and right into the oil for frying. However, when it comes to wintertime, we just technically, we cannot grow tomatoes. So, I could choose to do the pressure canning, but personally, I don't think I want to make a mush of a tomato. So if it means a pickling version and that it will last longer, I will do just that. So in the recipe for the ball canning, it requires cloves of garlic. It would be 1 clove per jar. 6 heads of fresh dill heads, or a 1/4 cup, which is about 1 teaspoon per jar of dill seed. And then there is bay leaves in each jar. Now you can choose to do you. I'm going to take Carol's advice and I'm just not going to add that. But I am going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon per jar of pickling crisp. So I will be adding everything to these jars except for the bay leaves. Now I've heard the tannins in bay leaves helps with the shelf life, but it also leaves a flavor onto our tomatoes as well. So just like if you really wanted to, you could omit the dill. That's totally up to you. I'm gonna try it with the dill because I think it would taste pretty good. And I could choose to put 6 small bay leaves in there. I may do that just to try it and see what it tastes like. If I don't like it, then I know next year not to do this at all. So I may get some small bay leaves, not very big, and I may go ahead and put that in each jar. So that is going to be our next ingredients, and we are going to get ready. I'm waiting for this canner to finish so we can pull these beans out, and we're going to do some flipperoos. My jars are already washed and cleaned. My tomatoes are sliced. The brine is on the oven getting heated up to a boil. Our cloves of garlic are already peeled. We are pretty much ready to go. I've got the dill seed ready and our pickle crisp, and we are actually ready to go to our next one. So I will be back. We will fill our jars and I will show you how we're going to do this. Okay, y'all, so I do have some really small bay leaves in this jar. This was a friend of mine here where we live. Her and her husband have a beautiful bay leaf tree. And I was blessed by them to have a couple sprigs that I turned around and dried. And I've had it in a 1/2 gallon jar, so we're going to use these. Like I said, I am going to use small. I don't want to use a whole lot of this. And then again, I may do 1/2 and 1/2 in my jars. 1/2 with bay leaves, 1/2 without, and see which one I like better. That's probably what I'm going to do the best. So we're going to get situated here. We are using wide mouth for the first time this year. That's because the wide mouth jars are going to be your best to use for taking these rings out of your jars. I've got the water coming up to heating. I've got the lids, and I know for some of you, you will already say it is not necessary to heat your rings if they are sure-tight. I found that some of my sure-tight, even without, when I didn't, they did come apart. So I am, for safe measures, I'm not boiling them. I'm just heating the rings a little bit. And I've got my brine coming up to a boil and the salt being dissolved. So as soon as we get everything situated, we are going to start filling our jars, and I'm going to show you how to do this. Okay, y'all, so I am going to do 4 jars with bay leaves. The rest of it we're going to do without. So my brine is almost up to boiling, so I'm going to go ahead and at least get the jars set up. So I've had my jars sitting in hot water. Because general rule, if you're going to do something over 5-10 minutes in the pressure canning or water bathing, technically you do not have to boil your jars. So I am going to start out putting 1 bay leaf in each jar, and I am using small bay leaves. I am going to use 1 piece of garlic per jar. 2 teaspoons of dill seed per jar, because again, we don't have any fresh dill at this time of year. And these are optional, y'all. And we have salt in the brine, so I'm not adding that to it. And I'm going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of pickle crisp per jar. I hope you can see this. So we have our pickling crisp, we have our dill seed, we have our bay leaf, a clove of garlic, and now we're going to add our tomatoes. Now, the reason we cut the edge off, just so you know, we cut the end off where the bloom was, and we also cut the top. The reason for that was because when we go to take them out to fry them, just like we do when we fry them, we want something for that breading to cling to. So I chose to take those ends off just for that reason. Now I'm going to go ahead and pack my tomatoes in my jars in here. We should get one, depending on the size of your tomato, y'all. It's going to take 1 or 2 tomatoes per jar to do this. So, and we're looking for a 1/2 inch head space, and this goes for our liquid as well. So we're going with a 1/2 inch head space. Now that's as far as I'm going to go, because I want my liquid to overtop my tomato. I do not want to have too much liquid at the bottom. So, and while this is being packed in a minute, I'm going to go ahead and put this lid on my canner, because this is going to take a while to bring this up anyways, and I need this to start coming up to temp. It has been a long time, y'all, since I pickled anything. Our brine is now to a boil, and we're ready for this one. Now we're going to go ahead and continue filling up our tomatoes here. I can smell all that pickling stuff, and I can tell you, I have not done this in a long, long time. I'm just going to take just a couple more. We'll go on to the next one. This is actually exciting, y'all, to know that we can do this. I didn't know I could do this. And one more right there. And then we'll move on to the next jar. This is actually really exciting. I'm kind of trying to put them in my jars in here, laying them down flat, like so. They will cook a little bit too. I know they're up against my jars, and it's going to be hard basically to debubble these, but we're going to do the best we can. Okay, so now we've got our tomatoes in here, and we're going to go ahead and add our brine. And I'm looking for a 1/2 inch head space. And if I have to, I will definitely make some more brine, because we're not exactly sure how many pints we're going to get of our tomatoes. And I definitely want to be filling these to a 1/2 inch. I definitely will be coming back as soon as I can get that debubbler in here on these. They do say that it will change the color a little bit as well, and that's okay with me. If it means I can have fried green tomatoes in the wintertime, y'all, I can deal with light colored tomatoes. These make a perfect side, especially for the way that we live. This would be a perfect side dish. Okay, so far we have 4, and you can see we have a whole lot more tomatoes, y'all. So I guess I am going to be making up a whole lot more brine. So once I get this shown to you, we get these in the canner, I'm going to be making up a much bigger batch right now. So we are going to get quite a bit. Now we're going to take our debubbler. Let's find out where my bubbler went. I had just had it here. I will be right back. Okay, y'all. So now I'm going to take debubble and make sure that I can get the bubbles out of the sides of my jars. Make sure I get my tomatoes, the liquid in between them. You may have to play with these a little bit as well. Okay, this one here, I'm going to have to play with this one a little bit. I have a little fork that I'm just going to shift these around just a little. There we go. So I can get all the bubbles out of my jar. Alright, now cover these up to their 1/2 inch space. Just like so. That one was the least because it went down quite a bit. And these will end up floating to the top, just to let y'all know. So a little bit more. That one went down quite a bit too. Now we'll take our measure, go to a 1/2 inch space, which is that one right there. And they all have their liquid right where it needs to be. Wait a minute. Nope. Take that back. Yeah, I need to add just a little bit more. I didn't have quite that much in there. I was under the wrong one. I was at 3/4 instead of a 1/2 inch. There we go. That definitely needs more. And now we got that one. Got that one. And we have that one. So, just a little bit more on that. And that's it. Alright, y'all. So now we're ready to clean our jars. We're going to take our paper towel, dip it in vinegar, clean off our edges just like we do in everything here. Just like so. Get a dry one, and then we're going to put our lids on the top of this. And we have a long way to go. So, and I will definitely be letting you know how much we made out of all these tomatoes. Like I said, I do have to do a lot more brine because this definitely is not going to be enough. I'm going to go ahead and get my lids in here. Finger tight rings on the top of them. Just to the tips. Finger tight tip. Not just the finger tight. Come on now. Some of these want to work, sometimes they don't. Okay, so now, because this one doesn't have a ring at the bottom of it, basically, and I could put one in there, honestly, I could put the ring on the bottom of my canner inside of here, but I found using my rack is a lot easier. So we're going to put our rack inside of here and then place our jars inside our rack all the way around. And then we're going to go ahead and fill up more of our jars. Now I'll probably, it looks like I may go ahead and end up with two rounds of these. We'll see what happens. So we're going to go ahead and finish off the rest of this, and we'll come back and let you know what we're doing next. Okay, y'all, so we got our canner covered. We have 8 pints inside of here, getting ready to process, and it looks like I'm gonna have to set up for 3 or 4 more pints. So we got another round after this. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those jars ready. In the meantime, this is gonna go ahead and bring it up to a boil. I'm going to bring it down to a medium and let that boil for about 15 minutes. When you do a water bath, you want to make sure you have 1 inch, at least 1 inch above the top of your rings or your jars. So you want to bring this up to a boil, and these will sit for 15 minutes. At that point, I will be turning off the heat, opening the lid, and let it sit for 5 minutes before I pull my jars out. So we will be back as soon as this has been processed for 15 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to make up some more broth, and we're going to get ready for one more round of these. So it looks like we're going to have anywhere from 1 dozen to 11 pints of fried green tomatoes. That is awesome, y'all. But actually, these are going to be dill tomatoes that we're going to turn into fried green tomatoes this winter. So we will be back. Alright, y'all, so our 15 minutes just went off. The timer did. What's nice about the water bath, and yeah, hubby's over here making himself some popcorn as a snack. What's nice about water bath canning is once that timer goes off, I turn off the heat, I open the lid, and I will allow these to sit for 5 minutes. Once they set for 5 minutes, they will be coming out of this canner. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and add 3 more pints to this, and we're going to do the last round. I did measure these out, and it's going to come out to be another 3 pints. So we're going to get a total of 11 pints out of almost 7 pounds of green tomatoes dilled. So I'm going to get these done, get this next batch up, and when we come back, we will finish this video. Okay, y'all, so I am going through this with you on the last session of this canning. We actually have this coming now to a rolling boil. This is what you want. You don't want it massive where it's just pouring out steam everywhere. It's just a nice rolling boil. I set my timer at this moment for 15 minutes. We're going to let this cook, and then at that time we will come back. Alright, y'all, we are down to letting them sit for 24 hours. Or at least 12 hours. So I got one more right here that needs to be popped. We have a total of 11 canned tomatoes to can them for frying. And then over here we pressure canned earlier those red kidney beans. So we've got 5 pints of those. This is our canning session for the day, y'all. I hope I helped you. I will let you know when we do our pantry challenge this winter how these turned out. So I'm actually looking forward to it. I may see if I can get one more round of being able to do these with these tomatoes, and then we should be set for the winter. So until next time, much love from Parton's Heritage Homestead.